Hello and welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today we're doing a special episode because Mark and I were talking about one of our absolute favorite shows which is coming up, which is Doctor Who. And we wanted to do some live episodes around it. So we will actually, for the special coming out on Sunday, November 25th, we have a live episode that we'll be doing, kind of talking about the episode the next day. First one will be the following day. So our live one will be on Sunday, November 26th. The following day, that will be at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And then we will release the dates for the other two live podcasts that we'll be doing after each of the other episodes. But just to get this on people's radar, we thought we would do kind of two special episodes around Doctor Who. So I've got some questions here for us to kind of talk about, and then we'll talk about them. And then I also have trivia, Mark.
Trivia!
I've got some trivia.
I feel like I'm gonna lose to trivia against you.
That's all right. I think we all win if we learn. And I definitely think that you're going to lose because in writing the trivia questions, I know all the answers.
So I don't even stand a chance to win.
You don't stand a chance. No,
Well,
actually, in order to make sure that I don't cheat, I had Dawn write the trivia questions. So
oh.
I don't know what's in here.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Um,
Okay. All right. I'm excited.
She did throw in a few classic Who ones. So we assume that you're not going to get any of those, but the majority of them are new Who questions. So
Okay.
we do have a little bit of trivia that we'll kind of insert after a few of the questions.
Sounds great.
Let's start off with the first question. And how did you get into Doctor Who?
That's a great question. And actually, you are the reason. You were the initial catalyst to get me into Doctor Who. I
I'm the
remember
reason for the season.
you are the reason for my season of Doctor Who. But I remember there was one day when we were living together, you were watching Doctor Who, and it was the episode Asylum of the Daleks with Matt Smith. And I was very confused because it was like the Amy Rory drama of like they had just broken up, and I didn't quite understand the drama that was going on between them. They were just kind of like nobodies to me. But then shortly after that, I went to Comic-Con and I went to the 50th anniversary panel of Doctor Who with actual Matt Smith and Jenna Coleman, and I think Mothman was there, but I can't remember. But anyway, and they were showing all these teasers, and like they did a whole recap of up to the 50th, and like showed like these pivotal moments that I didn't remember, but it made me want to like binge everything and catch up to the 50th. So I started in New Who after that. How did you get into Doctor Who?
I think that this actually kind of gets into an interesting topic because I got into Classic Who a long time ago as a kid. But I think that it's interesting because this kind of points out the differences of people at different times. You know, Doctor Who's been going on for such a long period of time that different people come in at different points and it means different things to them. You know, some people are coming in as adults into New Who, or maybe came in as adults into Classic Who, you know, at different points. And so it can mean different things to different people, whereas some people can come in as kids at any point, and then maybe they continue to watch it kind of like myself. I honestly don't remember exactly how it started because I was extremely young, like extremely young. But I just do remember that once I was into it, I was absolutely hooked, and I would watch it on PBS Saturday nights. It was late, like it would probably start at something like 11 p.m. or something like that. Heaven forbid it was, like pledge drive time, because then everything gets pushed back a little bit more, and so the
Right.
later a show is, like, the even later it gets pushed back. So it might not start until like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And then on top of that, Classic Who was done in a slightly different format. The episodes were like 30 minutes long, and there might be 4 episodes kind of like telling a story, or there may be 6 or 8 episodes telling a story. And on PBS, they would show a story at a time. So we're looking at minimum of like hour and a half, I feel like. I mean, my memory might be long because this was a long time ago, but so some of these could be like 2.5 hour stories that were being told
At 11 p.m.
at 11 p.m. Everybody else was asleep. I mean, people watched it with, like, my parents watched it with me at some point. Obviously, maybe when I was younger, they might have been like when I got into it. But the part that I remember, like, once I was kind of in it and I was watching it on PBS, like, one, they're not as nerdy and into it as I was, and then two, nobody was, quite the like night animal that I was. So everyone would go to bed. But that also meant that I would watch some other, whether it's British comedies beforehand, or sometimes some other kind of things I got into. So I kind of like grew up in this like whole world of like British television was on like late night PBS.
That's funny because, like, I was not into British television until I was much older, because I feel like my family didn't like that style of comedy. Like, they just didn't get it for them. And I remember, like, being young and, like, my mom commenting on British humor, not liking it. And ever since I've been an adult, I love British comedy.
Love it.
What's the IT Crowd?
Oh, yeah. That's great.
It's so good.
Absolutely. All right. I think that this is going to kind of set up that we might go very different directions for the next question, which is, who is your favorite Doctor?
My favorite Doctor... I feel like one thing you had told me when I first got into Doctor Who is usually your Doctor is the first Doctor you watch, usually. Like, that's who people associate as their Doctor. And because of this Asylum of the Daleks episode, I feel like Matt Smith is my Doctor. I don't necessarily think he's the best Doctor, but he's my Doctor. And seeing him at the 50th anniversary, and I'm always Matt Smith. Matt Smith's my favorite.
I mean, that's hard for it to not be part of it, especially for people like myself that came into it, in their childhood. It's hard not to have some kind of nostalgic attachment. So I kind of go back and forth between Tom Baker, who is, one of the fan favorites of classic Doctor Who, the Fourth Doctor, and David Tennant from the current run. I still have a lot of nostalgia for the old stuff, and so I can certainly see how, Matt Smith, since you actually saw him, early on, not just, on the show, but then at Comic-Con, like, it's hard not to have that kind of nostalgia of, how you first got into it, like how you were introduced, how you learned about this interesting world. So I can totally see that, because there's been so many amazing performances where, like, I love every single one of these people, and I really do mean that.
Yeah.
Like, every single one of these Doctors I absolutely love. And each one has brought something completely different to the role.
Some Doctors get, shafted. Like, there's the one Doctor that was, I think, Peter Gann, who's just the movie Doctor.
Paul McGann.
Paul McGann, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm a new Who guy. I can't be bothered with the 90s movie, the direct-to-VHS movie. But,
Man, I watched it when it came out.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like, it was... My hopes and dreams were hanging on the success of this movie, because Doctor Who had been off the air. I was watching, repeat episodes. It had been canceled at this point, and this was the one chance for it to come back. And so I needed it to be... I love Doctor Who. Like, you don't understand how big of a Doctor Who nerd I was as a kid. When we went to the library, I would find the Doctor Who books, both fiction and nonfiction. So it's like I would read some of the like the new adventures, and I would also read the stuff like about Doctor Who. When we went to Tower Records, I don't know if you're old enough to know what a Tower Records is.
I know what a Tower Records is. I went to a Good Charlotte concert there once.
When we would go to Tower Records, I would find like the Doctor Who, like CDs.
Oh man.
And yeah, so I listened to like some bad 80s, 70s synth music.
Oh boy.
So all of my hopes and dreams hung on this adaptation, which didn't go through.
I was going to say, that came out in, I think, 98 or 99, somewhere around there, maybe earlier 90s. When you watched that movie and you had all your hopes being like, this is going to bring Doctor Who back, and then it not coming back right away, and not coming out, I think, till 2005 is when it came back out, like, did you lose all hope that you'd ever see any new Doctor Who after that?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I actually didn't even know that Doctor Who was back when it was back. I don't think I got into it until, like, maybe the third season. My brother-in-law actually, he was the one who heard about it. And he like, ripped and burned the episodes onto DVDs for me and then sent them to me, and so I was watching ripped versions of it, and that's how I kind of got back into it. And my heart had been burned once by like this hope of how it would do, the made-for-TV movie. And so I think at this point I was kind of guarded, and it was like something super nostalgic to me, so I didn't go in with like open arms. In fact, I would say it probably wasn't until like the second season that I was like, oh, there's good stuff here. I think I was just kind of watching it and thinking like, this isn't my Doctor Who. I've since gone about like, so I do love Christopher Eccleston at this point, but I think like when I first watching him, it was like, this is.
Well,
I don't know.
I will even say, like, as a person that only has watched New Who, like, that first half of that season is rough. Like, there's, mannequins in the first episode, which aren't, like, super scary, and then, like, shortly after, it's, like, farting aliens that have taken over the Prime Minister. It's just, it was a little out there, and for me, the selling point was the episode with I forget the name of it, but it's with the gas mask, where he's trying to save all the children that are just like, oh my gosh, that episode, I was like, this show is brilliant. This is such a great show. So
good. So yeah, I've since like gone on to love the show and go back and watch the previous episodes and love how it was. But I was definitely guarded kind of coming back into the show. Okay, so we'll take a quick break before we do our next question so we can do our first trivia question. So here's the way it's going to work.
Okay.
I'll pause us after, one of the questions at some point, and we'll do a trivia question. We'll go over our answers, what we think it is, and then if you think you know what the answer is, feel free to throw it in the comments. We'll go over the answers at the end of the episode.
Okay.
So here's the first one. Okay. It says, what is the name of the Doctor's home planet? I think I've got this one in the bag, so I'm not too worried about this.
Well...
Oh, crap.
Do we know what the real planet is?
Oh, that's a trick question. Okay, these were put together by my wife, and who knows when they were actually compiled. Like, if this is an old trivia question, it might have an old answer. I'm
going to say Gallifrey. That's going to be my answer.
Yeah, so you didn't see the current stuff, but I did kind of tell you about that.
Right. I haven't seen the Jodie Whittaker Doctor.
I don't think they actually revealed where
See,
Like I
that's
think
what
they
I
revealed
thought.
where the Doctor was found, but I don't think they revealed where the Doctor is from.
Hmm.
So we're gonna do another question. I'm gonna say the same as you, Gallifrey,
Okay.
as like what the answer was for quite some time.
Right.
And it does say home planet. Like who knows? Like, this is my home right now, but it's not necessarily where I was born. Uh,
Maybe if we go by the TV movie, he's half Earthling, so I would say that maybe Earth is his home planet.
okay, okay. I like that. I like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another one. And
Okay.
that first question opens us. If anybody remembers from Jodie Whittaker, if they actually talked about where the Doctor is from, then maybe there is like a correct answer. But otherwise, I think Gallifrey is kind of accepted. I don't know.
I think Gallifrey is an acceptable answer.
I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Here's the next one. Which companion makes her first appearance wearing a wedding dress? I'll answer
Donna
this one. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Donna Noble.
Donna Nobo.
And I didn't want you to have to like go out there and answer all of them first. So
Okay.
we'll see. Okay.
Sorry. I'll let you answer the next one first. You're mad. I can
No,
hear
that's
it in
good.
your
That's-
voice. No, I can hear it in your voice. Don't hit me again, Papa.
I'm, I'm very curious to see what's written on this like home planet one. Okay.
Okay.
Let's get back to the questions. The next
Yes.
question. So this is just kind of like a fun one. Obviously,
Okay.
this isn't real stuff. What kind of Doctor Who story would you either want to take part in, or do you think, yeah, would you want to take part in? Because that does, I was gonna say, do you think you might take part in? But that means that forces you to be stuck on Earth. But potentially, if it's like want to, you could be on another planet or something.
Well, I'll say right off the bat, I don't want to be in anyone with the Weeping Angels one, because that just is pure nightmare fuel. The Weeping Angels can't handle them. As for one I would want to be in, I feel like that's really hard because I feel like he gets in a lot of like dangerous situations where it seems really dangerous all the time. Like the library, we see
Yeah.
like River Song gets stuck in the brain thing.
Yeah.
I would probably say one. There's the episode where the 10th Doctor, they get stranded in like the desert. It's like one of those like 4 movie episodes. One, he doesn't even have a companion.
Yep.
He just like meets up with the locals. Maybe something like that. I feel like the stakes were pretty low in that one. It just seemed like the Doctor was on vacation. What
And
about
then as a follow up,
you?
what role do you think you would play in the episode? Are you like helpless bystander? Do you like play a pivotal part? Do you potentially make it?
Oh god. I mean, I would want to hope that like if I was in a story, I would want to be one of his companions. I feel like sometimes it doesn't end well for his companions overall, like, but I feel like for the most part, like his companions come out unscathed.
Yeah, I think for the most part his companions do pretty well. The fifth Doctor actually like legitimately lost. Like one of his companions died, and I don't think I learned until afterwards that I think so. It was Adric, and I think he was unpopular, and they
They just killed him
and
off.
they killed him off. But like for me, it was devastating. Like that, it blew my mind. He used to wear a gold star, and he used it to because the Cybermen, gold is one of the few things that they are weak against, and he used it to stop a Cyberman and ended up breaking. And at the end of the episode, it just had like the broken gold star, credits, and no music. So they like really let you sit in that.
Man.
But otherwise, I would say that like for the most part, I think the companions do pretty. I mean, it's sad that Donna doesn't remember, but yeah. Okay, what kind of story? So I think I would want to maybe do like one of the historical ones, so I can because there's always some fun kind of stuff there. Like, you know, you get to see Shakespeare, or you get to, I don't know, see some kind of interesting historical period of time. I think that's what I would go in. As I was saying it, I was actually thinking that it would also be really cool to see like one of the crazy future ones. But I also feel like the stakes on those are oftentimes much worse.
That's yeah, they really are.
And who knows if you end up like so far in the future that you can't even like understand and really appreciate the tech. So I'm gonna stick with my answer of like wanting to be in kind of one of the historical timepieces.
Who would you be in that historical timepiece? Would you be the historical figure?
No. No, that's I don't want to be that full of myself that I'm like Shakespeare. No, I want to be able to watch Shakespeare and see what he's up to.
So are you a peasant back then? Are you?
Hey, do you know what? That's the sad thing. I feel like I used to have much higher thoughts of myself, but I do think that I would probably be picked off relatively early, like before I even really get to appreciate the historical time period that I'm in. But it's like I'm one of the people that like shows the stakes of the situation. Like, oh, this is real. Like that random guy we saw for like 30 seconds, he dead.
I just imagine you're a peasant going in to see Shakespeare for the first time. I saved up 23 pence. I get to see him for the first time. Some weird alien comes in. That guy, zap. Oh man.
That's my guess. Okay, so next, what do you think is one of the most underrated things on Doctor Who, whether it's an episode of Doctor, a companion, villain, and why?
I think the most underrated, in my opinion, of Doctor Who would be Peter Capaldi's portrayal of the Doctor. I think that he has so much love, and like he did such a good job being the Doctor. Like I felt like he felt like the Doctor, you know? Like I feel like, I mean, actually, I feel like every Doctor has felt like the Doctor in their own way, but I feel like he had so much love to give to the performance, and I think that just his episodes were a little bit flat at that point, and I think that he got short-staffed on that one.
I can totally see that. I think, you know, and I think that actually kind of goes to a future question I have, because I think that one of the things that is interesting about Capaldi's performance that I think makes it harder to grab on early on, but maybe appreciate kind of after the fact, is the Doctor is an alien, and we see a number of different sides. Sometimes he seems much more human. Sometimes he's kind of like callous and calculating. And I feel like most of the Doctors portray that at different times. I feel like with Capaldi, we see that the callous side, for the calculating callous side early on, and he transitions to the more kind of human one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he is a little bit foreign and abrasive at first. And I think that can be kind of tough to connect with.
Well, and and for me, he was replacing my Doctor. And my Doctor was, you know, the fun, like, the young, like, he was like, go with the flow, I'll figure it out, ooh, timey-wimey, you know. Where, like, and then going to Capaldi's first episode, and he is a mean curmudgeon at first. And
yeah,
that was a very hard adjustment for me, switching over.
Honestly, when one of the early episodes of his, like in the first season, the first one with the Dalek, where I think he tells somebody something, basically kind of making them think they'll be fine, and then they're just...
I know exactly which episode you're talking about. It's the bank heist.
Lost me.
And he's like, give it to me, and I can get you out of this. And they give it to him vaporized.
And that... I'm like thinking about it after the fact, I got it, but it was it doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy about him.
No.
So I can totally see that.
What's your most underrated thing on Doctor Who?
It's interesting because I wrote these questions, but I also didn't want to think too much about them because I didn't want to have a head start. As far as underrated, I think something that can be underrated is how experimental the show can be. The fact that I don't think that there's anything that's really off limits, and the fact that different showrunners, different doctors can go a completely different way, and the show will just embrace the changes. You know, with the exception of like the Paul McGann saying that he was half human, pretty much everything that has been said in Doctor Who has just been accepted as canon. And it's like, okay, well that happened. One writer chose that. We're gonna take it and move on with it. And I think that this can lead to some pretty bad things in Doctor Who, where, you know, in being experimental and trying a number of different things, there are some things that really do not hit. But it also allows the show to get into some really cool things. You know, there have been episodes where I don't think I would have liked the idea of it, but the like seeing how it was executed, seeing the direction that they took it, absolutely amazing. So I think it's that kind of like everything is on the table. And I think that's, you know, kind of a good and a bad, but I think it's a net positive.
Like when they experiment with Daleks flying. You love it. That's the best part.
I mean, it needed to happen. So, once again, I'm from the classic era. So, right. You know, at one point you get to this kind of realization of the Daleks' biggest weaknesses are stairs.
Right.
It's like, these are supposed to be one of like the scariest things in the entire universe. But as long as you're in a city, so you have like multi-story buildings, you're fine. So I think that kind of like led to that reckoning of, can these really be scary if they can't go upstairs? And a solution had to happen. Yeah. But so that's what I'll kind of go with on that one.
Okay.
I think it's time for another question, another trivia question.
Let's do it. I'll let you answer first this time.
Hopefully this won't be controversial.
Okay.
All right, this is multiple choice. And I think I might have to ask Dawn to take these up a notch, because I think that these have been pretty easy so far, with the exception of like the controversial question.
I was going to say that first question was pretty tricky.
Is that tricky or controversial? But, okay.
Controversial.
So, in fact, I'm curious what the... Okay. So this is, which name does the Master go by when regenerated into a woman?
I have the answer locked in.
Yeah, so I don't think we even necessarily need the multiple choice. It's Missy. And the options are... Although I do like the options.
What are the options?
I like 2 a lot, actually.
What's 2?
Becky.
Becky. Wait, her name wasn't Becky?
Becky.
Becky. Oh.
We've got Cindy, Becky, Missy, and Mandy. I think Mandy actually would have been a nice option.
I think her name is Mandy, if I remember correctly. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Mandy Poppins.
Which reminds me of one of our cross-street neighbors. Bucky. Bucky the dog. This dog that had such horrible owners that... Did you live in the house when Bucky was there?
When Bucky, oh wait, was Bucky across the street?
Bucky was across the street.
Yeah.
And Bucky, I think Bucky hated his life so much because he hated his owners
Right.
that he would just like, and they would leave the door open. He would just walk into the street
Just lay down. Time
and,
to go.
and just like sit there as cars would come, like, and it's a neighborhood, so it's not like they'd come fast, but like a car would come and it would have to like stop and then like move around the dog, and I kind of felt like the poor dog was like asking for death.
Please, just take me. Take me, sweet Lord.
All right, moving on to our next question. What would you like to see in the future of Doctor Who?
That's a good question. What would I like to see in the future of Doctor Who?
I'll jump into this one.
Yeah, how about you start it off?
Future of Doctor Who, I think something, and this is kind of taking something from the past that I absolutely love, which is, and it's also taking advantage of the fact that it's being released on Disney. I don't know if it's also going on, it's probably going on air in BBC first, but I would love them to embrace the kind of digital format and allow each episode to be the length that it needs to be rather than being stuck in a certain format. And it kind of reminds me of the old Doctor Who episodes where, because they were only 30 minutes at a time and you didn't know how many episodes were needed for an arc, they were each kind of different lengths. So I kind of feel like old Doctor Who already had that feeling of like, give the story the amount of time it needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see kind of a modern version of that where maybe an episode is 45 minutes and maybe this one is like an hour and 5.
I like that. I especially with this new digital era, they don't need to fill time slots and, set for commercials, so
Right.
they do have a lot more freedom, and so I do think that would be a net benefit. I think I would like to see that more as well. For me, I know Doctor Who has like a lot of emotional beats, and I like that seriousness of it. I do like the silly side of it. Sometimes it can be a little too campy, and I go back and forth because like sometimes I love the camp and sometimes I hate the camp. Or like
I mean,
sometimes
it is a kid's show. Like,
I
whether or not it
know.
also happens to appeal to adults,
I know.
it is supposed to be a kid's show.
And maybe that's what I would want, is like maybe at some point a
Less
section
children.
of not even less
Is that-
children. I mean, no, I want
You're just a terrible, terrible person who wants less children on the earth. That way,
no.
the shows that are supposed to be for kids can be a little bit more adult.
I mean, just maybe like a subset, just a little bit more mature Doctor Who, like maybe like how Torchwood was doing its own.
After Hours, Doctor Who After Hours,
I mean, not even that. It doesn't even need to be like
Doctor Who
Nights. Maybe just see like somebody gets shot by a gun or something and he starts bleeding. He's like, oh god, what do I do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like, I feel like the campy side locks him in to, it does tell like impactful stories, but like I feel like they could tell really crazy stories
Right.
that they're just held back from the camp. But
I'm giving you crap for your answer, and yet I absolutely hate the farting aliens. Like there are things about this show that are so cringe, so painfully cringe.
what is it? Absorbamoth?
The Absorbaloff.
Absorbaloff?
I think Love and Monsters was the episode, maybe.
I skip that episode every time when I go through because it's so painful.
And it's a Dr. Light story too.
the doctor shows up at the end for less
Right.
than 30 seconds.
Right.
It's terrible.
Oof.
Oof.
Yeah, he's like,
And then I
I'm
like
not
feel
putting,
bad
I'm not
be-
putting my name on this show.
But didn't like some kid like design
Yeah,
Absorbaloff, and so I feel bad making fun of it, but this is why we gotta get kids out of there.
Kids shouldn't be designing TV shows.
Get outta here.
That's actually that. You know what? I think haven't we learned that from enough contests where it's like public contests aren't a great way. Like there's that boat that's now called Bodie
McBoatface. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like contests like that have consequences.
Because nobody's trying to name it the name that it actually deserves. Like, if you see a name that's in the running that's like Poopy Fart Face, you're gonna be like,
Right.
How funny would it be if they actually name it Poopy Fart Face? I'm
Right.
voting for that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, that one I love the idea behind it, but it turns out that having a child design a monster may not be the best idea in the world.
Might not work, maybe.
Who knew?
Maybe.
Who knew? So, Sonic or no Sonic?
I'm gonna say, since I've only known New Who, I'm only a Sonic guy. You know, I've never experienced a time where the Doctor didn't have a Sonic. So I'm gonna say Sonic.
So one of the old showrunners, I think Jonathan Nathan Turner, banned the Sonic at one point from Doctor Who because it's a cheap writing device for the writers. You know, like anytime that they're in a bind, rather than having to rethink the story and figure out how to write their way out of it, they just use the Sonic. And so I do feel like the Sonic is something that can do just about everything when it's needed and just about nothing when they're trying to amp up the stakes, where it's like, oh, it can't go through this type of door because it's
Wood.
this. But a moment ago it can like go through everything. So I do feel like it is a cheap writing thing that just, well, like I don't think there's a definition of what it can do. It can just it's
a handy
done so
tool.
much.
Yeah, it's a handy tool that does pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything, but then also sometimes can't do anything in a situation. It seems kind of like superhero powers, where it's like it's
Right. It is kind of
over the place.
a Deus Machina, like,
Yeah, Deus Ex Machina. Yeah,
it's just get out of jail free card. Like, oh, we're in trouble. Well, I can get out. I do see why people would not like the sonic screwdriver, because it's like, oh, I don't know how to get out of this. Oh, this will do it. Oh, it's not going to work on this one because I have a different way out. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I could be on both sides of that.
or fix it. You know, like have something catastrophic happen to it, and then when he fixes it, you know, it doesn't have all the old capabilities, and there's like now set rules that we can follow, so that yes, it can help get through certain situations to move the story forward, but it's not something that's just like a catch-all where you just use it for whatever in any situation.
Also, another great answer to what would you like to see in the future of Doctor Who, a nerf on the sonic screwdriver, just to make it a little bit more fair.
Oh yeah, and I kind of feel like the TARDIS is kind of the same way, where it's used a lot in some episodes, rarely in other episodes. Although I do feel like they try to be pretty creative about why he can't use it in certain episodes, you know, where it's like it'll get locked into a room, or it'll fall off a cliff, or get taken, or something like that. Because that's another one where it's just kind of like, let's just go back to the TARDIS and
Just print something up that'll fix the problem.
I wasn't a fan of the introduction of psychic paper, because that wasn't in Classic Who, and I felt like that was one of those things where It's another one. It's like you flash it and it shows whatever you need.
Well,
But it's at
but
least
isn't
not
it?
overused.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen that much of psychic paper, but also what I've seen of it, I also feel like psychic paper doesn't always work the way you want it to. Because like I think there's like an episode where he flashes it and he's like trying to be a policeman or something, and it's like, oh, you were an escort service or something. He's like, I am. Yeah, sure. Like that's what will get me in here. So it does have a little bit of like limitations, but yeah, they also don't use it that much.
Yeah. All right, I think we're on to our next trivia question.
I'm ready.
Okay. So, what is the name of the prison that River Song is serving in? I'll go first. Or do you want to go first?
No, you go first. You go first, because I probably have the same answer as you already in my head. I've locked it in because I know. So, you go first, and you're probably gonna copy what I have. So, go ahead.
Yeah, my answer is I don't know.
I can't remember. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna say New Jersey State Penitentiary.
I'm gonna say Rikers.
Right.
Rikers. And if you know the prison that River Song was held in, leave it down in the comments because we're idiots and we don't.
Who knows? Maybe I think I might be right. Actually, I don't even think that prisons are named that way.
New Jersey State Penitentiary?
New Jersey State Penitentiary.
I think so. Right? At least one.
At least, yeah, it's very possible. Okay, our last question, and at the end of this, we'll go over answers to these. And this is just kind of a broad topic which came up earlier, which is the Doctor's humanity / alienness. So I'll go ahead and kind of kick this one off, where this is something that's always interesting to me because there are times where the Doctor is so human and makes genuine connections with people and seems like they could be one of us. And then there are other times when the Doctor is legitimately kind of scary. And I think that the companions are so important to keep the Doctor on the human side. Because like when I think of the Doctor's kind of scariness, I kind of think of like the Waters of Mars, where the Doctor has these rules that the Doctor has said for quite some time, that there are some things that are fixed moments, and then the Doctor decides, you know what, I'm
gonna stop
the Doctor. I don't have to follow these rules. I can break one of these fundamental rules, and seeing him go down that route and is kind of scary.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting kind of seeing these juxtapositions sometimes.
Yeah, I in Water of Mars specifically, like I don't even feel like he felt like an alien in that. I felt like he felt like almost like a god complex, like nothing can stop me. I am the universe. I am God. I am in control of all this. And seeing him try to stop points in time that are supposed to happen, and seeing the repercussions, like at the end of that episode, it is heartbreaking. But I do think that overall, at least from what I've seen in New Who, I feel like we see more of that human side. Like he is the Doctor. He is saving people. Like he's more human than humans living on this earth. And another time, like that, you were saying that companions are so good at balancing him out, and I know we didn't get to see a lot of him this way, but the War Doctor, I feel like the War Doctor had no companions, and like the War Doctor is the War Doctor. Like that seems like the most ruthless version of the Doctor. Like he was in war, just trying to save his people. Save his people, but still doing deplorable things to other life.
I know that you haven't seen Classic Who, but I do kind of think of like the Seventh Doctor was a little bit of kind of like a master manipulator, and even kind of manipulated his companion at one point. And then we mentioned this with Capaldi. I do feel like we've seen this with pretty much every Doctor at some point, or at least like going. Maybe not kind of including some of the older Doctors, because I do think that this is something that was kind of introduced at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is a trait that's kind of been embraced and has come up, and there have been at least like one episode with each of the Doctors where they show a little bit more of with Matt Smith. I kind of think of like, remember the episode where his companion is aging and he ends up like shutting the TARDIS on that version of Amy, and that kind of broke Rory's heart, because I don't think like he did end up getting like their Amy back, but there was still kind of this other Amy that was on this planet by herself.
Right.
That that this like there was this calculation made to, and so I do feel like every Doctor has had that kind of moment where we see that, and I love it because it does give some interesting juxtaposition, and also makes those moments where the Doctor does the very human things, gives some more weight to that, because it's not like that's what they're always doing.
Right.
All right, so we've got the trivia questions at this point. Let's go ahead and go over those. So let's start off with, what is the name of the Doctor's home planet? The answer that we have here is Gallifrey. So if anybody takes offense to that, I will be leaving my wife's personal Gmail address so that you can just absolutely grill her on not being correct, because we did not write these.
Yeah.
That is.
That looks like your handwriting.
It's if you can read it, then it's not my handwriting.
I actually know that's true.
This is legible. Oh, sorry. This is legible, so this is not my handwriting.
Of course not. Of course not.
Okay. Next one. We've got, which companion makes her first appearance wearing a wedding dress? And this is Donna Noble.
Donna Noble.
We have, what name does the Master go by when regenerated into a woman?
Becky.
And the answer is Becky.
Becky.
The answer is Missy.
Becky.
And then we have let's take a quick pause.
Okay.
Let's do one of these classic Who questions.
Okay.
Who knitted Tom Baker's scarf? So
Sterling's mom.
Feel free. That's one answer. My mom did knit my version of Tom. Well, that's not Tom Baker's scarf.
You're right.
I don't know this one.
You don't know who knitted Tom Baker's scarf? Wait, let me see if I can guess. His companion named Mary. I don't know if he had a companion named Mary.
No. I feel like I knew this at one point, but I definitely don't know the answer. So let's see. Madame Nostradamus.
Madame Nostradamus. All right.
Who knitted Tom Baker's scarf? And then coming back to our questions, what is the name of the prison that River Song is serving in? And the answer is Stormgate.
Stormgate. That's what I said.
Which no, you said Rikers, which is definitely a name. I think Stormgate is another name for New Jersey State Penitentiary.
I think you're right, actually. Now that I'm been corrected, I think that you are correct.
So, thank you for tuning in to this special episode. We will have another one of these this week before we do our live episode on Sunday, November 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific is when our live episode is. So look out for one more of these kind of short special ones, and then please tune in on Sunday, November 26th at 6 p.m. Pacific time to see us talk about the newest Doctor Who episode. Thanks for joining in. I'm Sterling. This is Mark.
Thanks a lot.